Welcome to Positive Partners. Today we're going to talk about dog food. And dog food means a lot to animals and to us. It keeps us healthy, makes us live longer, and I don't know, makes us happy. That's one thing. So stay tuned. Hey, welcome back, and glad you could stay with us. Today, me and Tom are talking about dog food.
Meet your dog food.
Okay.
Pun intended.
Yeah, talking about meat, I have seen people that are vegan want to make their dogs vegetarians.
Yeah.
Bad idea.
Tough row to hoe. I suppose theoretically all things are possible. Dogs are carnivores.
Mm-hmm.
Now they, with being with people, they have adapted to be able to digest starches and carbs and that sort of thing. And wolves actually, some wolf must have passed or something or other. And anyway, they found in a wolf's stomach about a third of the material is vegetation. Is green material, is plant material. But you know, they will eat an animal, and then they will eat what's in that animal's.
Well, my dogs will go outside and eat grass too.
Sure, right. You can, so talking about this, my hunch is that your average dog with a decent dog food, that's, I don't mean, extreme top of the line, but I'm also not talking about the really
cheap stuff.
The real just bargain basement was full of fillers and all that sort of stuff. My hunch is that the average dog's food is probably better balanced, healthier, has more than nutrients for it, better fat balance than what people eat. That's my
Now,
hunch.
I would say the balance might be better, but the quality is suspect.
Well, the quality is...
there's fat and there's proteins.
Right,
and
but where does it come from? Exactly. Yeah.
Where do they get it?
Yeah, we'll get it. Okay, now here's something. The sources for what, what we're going to talk about here, what I looked at, is the Ohio State University Veterinary Medical Center, let's see here, where else? The American Animal Hospital Association, Pets WebMD, VCA Hospitals, Vet Nutrition at Tufts University Veterinary School. All right. So starting off, I looked at all this. I thought, well, there'd be a lot to say, and they'd be clear. I think there are probably some clearly crummy dog foods you want to avoid. Mm-hmm. And there are probably some of the dog foods that have got all the good things you want to have. This comes from pasture-raised animals, and it's human quality food, human quality meat, and all that sort of stuff. And it's not been doused with insecticides, right, and all this other stuff. Just like we would want to have if we could find it and afford it. But that's a challenge to do. So we're really talking about going for the middle of the road here. And
just because it has a brand name that you recognize doesn't mean that it's good.
All right,
because I know some brand names that are not that great.
Right, and there's some brand name. One of them, and we're not going to name brands here, but you can look in. Well, okay, here's some things you can look at here to reviews of dog foods.
Are you mainly reading labels like we do?
This first one's reading labels. www.dogfoodadvisor.com.
I've subscribed to that.
Okay.
Whenever they will put out a warning,
Right.
or recall that says this dog food, there's salmonella or whatever, throw it out.
That's great. That's a great benefit. Now this guy's a vet. He got interested. I know he's a dentist. He got interested because his dog died from a food.
Yeah, my mom had a dog that was very near death because of the poor quality of the food. I don't know if there was something in it that was bad, or just the quality was so awful that they just became sickly.
Right.
So, and my dogs, we were feeding a decent. It wasn't the cheapest thing, but we were feeding decent stuff. But they were losing hair. They were itchy. Their hairs was flaky. They were just miserable. Their whole kind of like rear end was just, the hair was falling out.
Right.
And we found out that they had a grain or corn allergy.
Yeah.
And so what you want to do is get a low grain, high protein animal based diet.
Right. Right. And you want,
try that first before you maybe take them to the vet for not feeling well.
Well, actually,
depends on how
you
they're
can
feeling.
get them tested for food allergies, various ways. I mean, there are blood tests for it, or the skin test for it, and then also there's a test that goes off saliva for the antibodies, and
see what they can digest, I guess, with their chemistry.
Right. So you can look that up on the internet and talk to your vet and things like that. Another one to look at is www.dogforums.com under dog food. Okay. But keep in mind, neither of those, and those are people, that have had their own experiences and so forth. But
these are non-professionals that are sharing.
These are not veterinary medical sources of information.
Right. They're just sharing their
experiences. Right. Now, in all cases, and probably the best thing to do is consult your veterinarian. Chances are you consult your veterinarian, you're going to get a decent recommendation. If you're just starting out fresh, you got a puppy, you have got a large puppy, or it's going to be a large breed dog, or you have an older dog, or whatever, your best bet is ask your veterinarian, and then go to one of these other sites and do some research of your own and kind of put all that together.
And I went to the pet store and asked them, what's a decent one? When I came in with that grain allergy problem, what's a good one to feed them if I have a grain allergy? And they suggested one, and it's been working for the last 6 years.
Well, thank goodness, right?
So,
because your dog is really showing the effects. And my dog's got is a mild sensitivity to chicken. And it didn't show up, but when I gave my dog pork, and it was wasn't just hot dog. Well, maybe it was hot dogs I was using as reward. Anyway, my dog really bloated.
Oh yeah, pork is not something you want to feed them. If you look at dog foods, they're like lamb and fish and chicken. You won't find pork. So don't give your dog sausage.
Right.
And don't give them pork chops and all that kind of stuff because it's not good.
A vet we used to go to said that one of his teachers said he would rather feed their dogs chocolate than pork, and that every Thanksgiving is a veterinarian's, they get business because people will feed
they like
pork,
the bones, right?
and all that sort of crazy stuff. Anyway, so pork.
Like turkey bones and chicken bones. You got to watch that stuff too.
Yeah, right. And okay, we'll kind of get into that on the barf diet, the raw diet and so forth.
I was talking about table scraps.
Yeah. Well, bones, you can end up with a perforated intestine, and just a brief thing on bones and food. The bones that dogs would be able to handle are soft bones. They are not cooked. If they're cooked, they're hard, they break, they splinter, they get into their intestines, they puncture an intestine, and
then you have big bills or a dead dog.
Yeah. So what should dogs eat? Dogs are scavenging, meaning they also eat dead animals, as we know. They scavenge. They're carnivores and so forth. With plant carbohydrates, there are different plant carbs you can add. It's just kind of topping or something if you want to add some
green
in.
beans and peas.
Yeah, and some carrots and some
Right.
potatoes if they're cooked, and apple, not the seeds. The seeds are poisonous. So you want to look into what human foods are poisonous for dogs, because grapes and chocolate and coffee and that's not a human food, but a cigarette butt, all those kinds of things. You want to look on that and be knowledgeable on that point. Okay, let's just touch briefly on supplements. Check with your vet. Okay, we all want what's best for our dogs, so maybe we take vitamins or one thing or another, and but the dog food, whether it's canned or whether it's dry, is going to have some vitamins and supplements and very minerals in it.
And one thing with a bigger dog, a supplement you might want to look into is glucosamine chondroitin.
It can.
That really helps their joints.
Right.
I've had a couple of them with joint issues that giving them that like daily with a meal, that really helps.
Right. And so check with your vet on your supplements if you want to give that a try. And I have heard that. And
have you seen the
there's
newest?
some human research there, that humans who have significant arthritic pain, not just mild arthritic pain, get some benefit from that. But you want to check with your vet. You say, look, I want to try this. Here's what the dog's taking. Take in a picture of the label and say, okay, is this going to cause a problem? Because you get, if you get, like for a larger breed puppy, if you get the calcium out of balance, you can have too much early bone growth, and then that's going to cause joint problems, dysplasia problems, and that sort of stuff. So that's got to be right, and that's just not, your common owner knowledge. Also, like say maybe you get too much vitamin A. I don't know this. Can harm blood vessels, cause dehydration and joint pain. Excess vitamin D can interfere with normal appetite, harm bones, cause muscle atrophy. Also, if a dog's looking, you want to look at in terms of your food. Is this dog, itchy? Does it look? Is its coat looking bad? Is it look like it's got enough muscle on it? Is it overweight and things like that? And we'll get right into there.
And you can put like fish oil and stuff in it.
Right on that point.
On that.
And yeah, there seems to be some data that omega-3 fatty acid fish oil is beneficial. And if you look, I just looked at a label last night. It was in Kroger's. Can we throw up that slide there?
No pun intended.
Oh yeah, we won't throw up this. Anyway, so we got this whole aisle of dog food, and like one of the I just go what the
and there's puppy foods, so there's adult foods, and then there's senior foods.
And developmentally, it is true that what a puppy formula is should be, especially for
and large and small dogs.
And small, and then for a senior dog. But see here. Here's what Dr. Dodman, who's a very well-known veterinarian from the in Pennsylvania, says on these bags here, the vast majority of the text on all of the images on any pet food packaging is advertising. Current regulations do not require pet food companies to provide much factual information on their labels. So there you go. So,
but the nutritional information, you should be able to rely on that.
There is.
Other than that, it's advertising.
Okay. So on the nutritional information for that, what it should be on that bag is regulated by the Association of Animal Food Control, establishes minimum nutritional requirements for animal feed of various animals. And for dogs, the crude protein is like in the 20% range. The crude fat is in the 5 to 8% range. Then we get down to things like, okay, linoleic acid, calcium, etc., phosphorus, potassium, sodium, copper, zinc, vitamin A, where are we here? Vitamin D, vitamin E, thiamine. They're all specifications. So you should be able to look at that bag, and that bag should say, according to the standards here, one of three things. It should say that the food in there, where we got 1, 2, 3. Either, yeah, it was formulated to meet AAFCO profiles, that feeding tests showed that it met the minimum standards for a specific species and life stage, or the product is for intermittent and supplemental feeding, which means it was not tested or was not meeting those standards. Anyway, that should be on there. But as you said earlier, it says, okay,
well, like the crude protein.
Where's
what
that what is it? And that company earlier, some crude protein, and then, you know, this isn't necessarily a terrible thing, but animals that have died are taken, you know, not uncommonly, to rendering plants.
Right.
So it looks like actually a big refinery. All these pipes and things, and like that big chemical, you know, process.
They just take an animal, dump it in a grinder,
right,
and then they
steam
boil
it and everything else. Right,
right.
right. But on the other hand, you know, that's out of respect for that animal's body, unless you're going to be somehow, you know, recycling that animal, you know, kind of returning it to the earth. You know, it's
well, it gets sent out to all types of different things, whether it's cosmetics or soaps or
all kinds of things.
Right.
You know.
It's all that stuff is used.
Yeah, but that one company, you know, we were both talking about a company. This one company ended up killing one dog, and some other dogs were sick because their food had pentobarbital in it. Well, these were animals that were rendered.
That were put down? That
had been put down with pentobarbital, which is a barbiturate. Anyway, and there
so that was still in the system.
It was still in enough concentration that it made you know, dogs sick, and then, you know, so someone found out about it, thankfully, but it took the loss of life and some sick dogs.
So whenever you're looking at this crude protein, look at it and see if you can decipher exactly what that is.
Yeah.
And the farther upstream, if you might want to say, or the cleaner that you can find the crude protein, the better it is.
Yeah.
And not just ground up leavings.
Right,
you know?
right. Yeah. There's some of it that you know, the meal is just whatever's left over. You know, it's like chicken toes and all that sort of stuff, and everything but the head, and sometimes the head. You know, it's just all, you know, and the labeling definitions and requirements are not tightly regulated. So,
I went to a website just to see like dog food reviews and see which ones are at the top and which ones are at the bottom.
Right.
And pick one of those, you know, the ones at the top.
Yeah, yeah, right. And
because, you know,
you shouldn't go broke doing it, you know, because you know, the Ohio State Veterinary Hospital, you know, said, okay, look, what they say is no objective scientific evidence has yet demonstrated that feeding grain-free, natural, holistic, organic, or raw diets to otherwise healthy pets when compared to conventional diets leads to better outcomes for your pets. So you want to get a decent food. You want to avoid those really crummy foods. If you have the financial resources and the time to look into it, you know, we all agree that the better the quality of the nutrition, the better overall. But you don't have to break the bank. You don't have to drive yourself wild. Look, you know, just make sure you've got a dog food that's reasonably good quality. It's within your budget, you know, and go with that. And, you know, you're talking about supplementation. Check with your vet, but omega-3 fatty acid or fish oil. Make sure that fish oil has been processed to remove the mercury and so forth. You know, that's a good way to go.
But when you have a big dog like mine, he's a Bernese Mountain Dog, they have a short enough lifespan.
Yeah.
And they say 6 to 8 years.
Yeah. You want to add what you can to that.
Right. Besides having good genes, which is huge, feeding a really good dog food will increase their lifespan.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah. It just
and
makes
the other
sense for
thing that
people. I mean, you know, even though you kind of on average, just with everything else averaged out, you know, no huge differences stand out. We know for people that if we eat a better quality of diet and so
Like
forth
junk
and so on,
food.
you know, and less junk food, you know, we're going to be in it. It's going to be helpful.
Right. Would you rather eat a regular piece of chicken or something like Spam?
Yeah,
You know?
right.
Some
right.
processed
or
thing.
some fast food all the time. You know,
Right.
there's some thing about someone who ate fast food for a month and
Yeah, they didn't turn out.
it didn't work
They
out
didn't
well
die,
for
but
them.
it
They
was
didn't die,
okay.
but they were in bad shape anyway.
But then there was another thing that I see amongst the people that have Bernese Mountain Dogs is feeding raw.
Yeah.
I think we ought to say a little bit of something
let's talk about
feeding
the raw diet, the barf
which is
diet.
when I would go to the store and buy chicken and beef or whatever and fix it for them and
Yeah,
feed them that
yeah,
and
yeah.
not rely on a company to do it.
Now, here's what a holistic veterinarian said, and she's looked into this really, really hard. She says the very best diet is the barf diet, the biologically appropriate raw food diet, okay?
Which is what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
okay, all right. And she also said the very worst diet, even below the crummiest dog food you would pick off the shelf, is the biologically appropriate raw food diet because people usually get it wrong. It takes an extreme level of knowledge
I was
to
looking
get that,
into this.
to get that all balanced out. And
Right,
she
I was
sees a lot
looking
of
into
dogs
it,
that are
and there are recipes.
have
that,
malnutrition from it.
you know, there's a certain amount of bone that has to be in it.
Yeah.
You know, help a certain part of their nutrition, a certain part of this or part of that. So it wasn't just I'm going to feed my dog
Yeah,
hamburger
right,
or
right,
chicken.
right.
There's a lot of other things
It's
that
real
they need.
complicated and real
So you have to be
time-consuming.
really on top of it and figure it out.
Yeah, and if you're doing that much for your dog, hopefully you're doing that much for yourself too.
Yeah.
It's extreme, you know. But it is if you manage to do all that. So, but on the raw food diet these days, with animals being raised very often in concentrated feeding operations, feedlots. Well, these days we know with hamburger and and chicken and all that sort of stuff, this has to be cooked right because a big percentage, 1/3, I don't know the number, but it's not a percentage that you got to deal with.
And when you talk about raw diet, we're not talking about feed them
Yeah.
just a piece of meat.
Yeah, but it's got E. coli on it and various bacteria, and animals in these concentrating feeding operations have to be fed antibiotics because they're walking around in their own manure. They are passing diseases from one another to one another, so they're given antibiotics, which means that the bacteria they have are trained up already to be resistant to antibiotics. This is not a good thing. Okay, well, let's see. Some points don't seem to be controversial. There's general agreement that even though dogs that can manage on and cats can manage various options, nutrition as a whole can matter.
And cat food does not apply to dog food.
Right.
Cats and dogs eat different things.
Right.
When a dog eats cat food, they will get sick. So those are not interchangeable.
Yeah. The nutrition needs of puppies, adults, senior dogs have some differences. And about 40% of dogs, like us, are overweight. You know, to the point where it's affecting their health. You know,
And
so check with your vet on that, and generally.
And so you probably wouldn't like, you know, there's feeding table scraps, but I've seen people that just feed their dogs like, well, these are the leftovers, and this is it.
You know, calories are calories are calories. So.
But if that's all you're feeding, then you're doing that raw diet wrong.
You're doing it way wrong. You know, and not to diss anybody about that, but it doesn't work that way.
That may be a supplement.
Yeah,
you know, wouldn't rely on that.
Yeah,
and
right.
I've got a friend that worked at a dog food company that is a chemist who will source different meats from different countries, and you know, maybe today it might be Brazil, and the next day it might be you know, United States,
Right.
where they're getting that meat from, and he was to test all this to make sure the percentages
Right.
fit. And they would change the formulas so the percentage of what they said was in the food was in it.
Yeah, that's right. And then the AAFCO looked at some of these foods that are already on the shelf, and even though they had these things, they had their readouts there, the final product didn't meet those standards, actually, because they weren't obligated to test the final product. Just
Okay.
that it was formulated to. All right.
Right.
So you want a company that you trust. You look up, see, you know, do people believe in that company? Do they have they
Look at the
earned trust?
reviews.
Look at the reviews. Have they had recall after recall? Okay. See here. Now, talking about labels, and we're winding it right down here. Labels, when you look at that, you want to see where's the source of the protein. So it says chicken, you know, chicken meat, or chicken, you know, you don't want to see, you want to see what is the source of the protein. All these things there, what comes first is what is first by weight.
Right.
Okay. Now,
It's a
meal is
percentage.
not necessarily bad. It's just more of a, it's ground up and the water's been extracted. So
And there's a lot of fillers.
yeah, you want to look at the fillers, and some fillers are just not what you want to see. Corn is a weird product these days because it's got, you know, there's a lot of messing around with corn. Anyway, let's see here. Also, another thing you can add that's helpful is the probiotics and prebiotics to get the gut bacteria working well, because humans, good human research that shows that that's helpful to our physical being and actually to our emotional well-being. So, but check with the vet and at least find out that what you're going to do is going to do no harm. All right, well, again, guys, wraps it up. And so,
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
So do your research and buy the best you can for your little friend.
You don't have to break the bank. Check with your vet.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.